This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
Oil prices rose on Wednesday as an industry report showed U.S. crude inventories declined last week, adding to a sense in the market of tightening supplies amid export issues in Kurdistan and Venezuela and disruptions to Russian supplies. Brent futures rose 40 cents or 0.6% to $68.03 a barrel by 1,000 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures gained 38 cents or 0.6% to $63.79. The market is expecting supply excess and stock builds globally in the last quarter of the year, but the focus recently has shifted back to Eastern Europe and the possible introduction of fresh sanctions on Russia, said PVM Oil Associates analyst Thomas Varga.
Indian oil refiners are increasing gasoline and diesel exports to their highest levels in several years, driven by expanded crude processing capacity and increased domestic ethanol blending that has freed up fuel supplies for overseas markets, traders and analysts said. Refiners in India, which sources about a third of its crude from Russia, are boosting runs and redirecting surplus barrels abroad. The rise in exports is expected to help meet Europe's winter heating oil demand and support Indian refining margins, after refiners turned to discounted Russian crude when Europe and the US imposed sanctions on Moscow for its invasion of Ukraine in February 2022.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
The European Commission will propose higher import tariffs on Russian oil in due course, a Commission spokesperson said on Wednesday. Hungary and Slovakia import around 200,000 to 250,000 barrels per day of Russian oil, equivalent to about 3% of EU oil demand.
The looming revival of international sanctions on Iran is unlikely to curtail Tehran's vital oil exports but could benefit Chinese refiners, offering them access to a larger share of discounted Iranian crude. Britain, France, and Germany launched a 30-day process on August 28 that will trigger the reimposition of UN sanctions on Iran, accusing Tehran of failing to abide by a 2015 deal with world powers aimed at preventing it from developing a nuclear weapon. Iranian and European diplomats met on Tuesday in New York for last-ditch talks to prevent the reimposition of sanctions, though chances of averting a so-called snapback appear slim. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices steadied on Wednesday, trading near the record high hit the day before, as expectations of further U.S. interest rate cuts and geopolitical uncertainty boosted demand for the safe haven metal. Spot gold was steady at $3,762.73 per ounce, as of 11:03 GMT, after hitting a record high of $3,790.82 on Tuesday. U.S. gold futures for December delivery edged down 0.5% to $3,795.80. The dollar index, which measures the greenback against a basket of major currencies, rose about 0.5%, making dollar-priced bullion more expensive for other currency holders.
Copper prices lost ground on Wednesday, despite concerns over tight supply, as a firmer dollar weighed on prices amid quiet trade ahead of a week-long holiday in top consumer China. Benchmark 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange was down 0.2% at $9,936 a metric ton in official open outcry trading. From a technical perspective, it seems fairly clear it's hit a significant ceiling for the short term, said Dan Smith, Managing Director of Commodity Market Analytics.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The global sugar market is projected to have a surplus of 2.77 million metric tons for the 2025-26 season that starts in October, broker and analyst StoneX said in a report on Tuesday. Global sugar production was estimated at 197.5 million tons, while consumption was projected at 194.7 million tons. Better crops in Brazil, India and Thailand will more than offset an expected decrease in Europe, StoneX said. Earlier on Tuesday, the broker released detailed estimates for Brazil's new sugar season, projecting a recovery due to an expected normalization of weather conditions and crop renovation. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.